What is up, everybody? VitalSyntax here. This is going to be an in-depth look and review of the Corsair Vengeance 1500 gaming headset. I recently did an unboxing of these and I wanted to do a more in-depth review now that I've used these for a little bit over a week. And there's going to be a couple different categories we're going to be discussing in this review, from the build quality to the comfort, the performance, and an overall whether or not you should buy this depending on your situation. So starting out with the build quality, the first thing I noticed when wearing these for an extended period of time is how comfortable the ear cups are, which is obviously a huge factor when it comes to headphones and headsets. Now, the ear cups are covered in a microfiber material, which is very soft to the touch, doesn't cause any itching, and is very comfortable when you have over your ears. Inside of that microfiber texture is a memory foam padding, and you can see when I compress the headset or the ear cups, they do take a couple seconds to decompress. And that adds more comfort to the headset when you're wearing it for an extended period of time, and also gives you a better seal when you're trying to fit the headset onto your head. One thing I did notice about the ear cups is they're not very deep. They are deep, but not in comparison to my ears. And basically I mean that my ears were touching the driver, which is the inside of the ear cup right here, which I have huge ears. I have a very, very big head. And I know you hear people say that all the time, but I seriously have a ginormous noggin, and these ear cups weren't deep enough for me. So just keep in mind, if you do have a larger than average, and I mean a very large head, you might have some issues with the ear cups and a couple other issues I'll talk about in a bit. But for the most part, you guys should be good. These ear cups are deep. They're just not quite as deep as I would like. There's kind of the finger test. You can see, you know, they're about that deep. So, moving on to the siding of these, I did mention in my unboxing that I thought this was some type of metal or aluminum, but it turns out it is just a plastic made to look like brushed aluminum, and they did a very good job. So, although it isn't metal, and it would have been nice to actually have some metal components in this headset, it does look good. So they did a good job with the design. You can see the Corsair logo on each ear cup, which is another nice touch because they have a freaking awesome logo. Okay. So build quality, as far as it comes to the collapsible, I guess extendable siding or headband, it's very clicky. You can hear, and there are a lot of different positions in here, and you get little markers to show you can remember exactly where you had your headset set to, which is nice. And I don't see any issues with this, you know, getting loose. I guess if you went like this for an extended period of time, you might have some issues with the clicking mechanic in there, but very nice build quality when it comes to the band. One thing I didn't like, though, is that it's kind of at an angle. You can see it's kind of in a straight line, and right here it turns off to the side. And when you have that on your head, it kind of pushes this forward on your head. It's kind of hard to explain, but I wish they would have just had this bent in that direction and just had this railing go straight instead of having it go this way and then this way. But that's just a little thing that didn't affect me too much. Moving on to the top of the headset, these are a nice padding here as well. I don't think it's memory foam, but it is some type of padding up here that's quite comfortable. There is padding on the top for some reason. I'm not sure why, but that doesn't really matter. It has kind of a punched hole look, which kind of is a cool texture, but the inside part where it's actually touching your head is just a flat texture. Alright, so moving over to the microphone, this is a notch design, so that means that you can click it into place. It's not, you know, totally smooth. You can see it notch like that. You can go about that far, so not a full 180, but you know, there's a good amount of angle as far as where you want to position your the headset or the microphone. I would have preferred if they added the option where you lift the microphone up to mute it, because I've seen a lot of headsets do that lately, and it's a very, very intuitive feature, so that if you want to mute your microphone, you don't have to, you know, reach for your little inline controller or do something on your PC. Instead, you just flip this thing up, because that's intuitive, it's easy to do, and it's also easy to turn the mic back on. But regardless, it is a good microphone. It has a very good notch design on it. I'll give you guys a sound test to let you guys hear how this thing sounds.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Alright, so moving on to the rest of the headset, basically all we have left to talk about as far as build quality goes is the cable and the inline controller. It is a braided cable, which is very good build quality. It's going to add some rigidity to the cable, allows for a little more tension, and it's going to protect the wires that are actually running through there a little better than just a rubber cable. So here's the inline controller. You can see the up and down volume switch as well as the microphone mute. These are very tactile buttons. You can hear them clicking. So I think they did a good job with that. One thing I did notice is this thing can actually get kind of hot when you're playing at a louder volume for an extended period of time, which is actually very annoying because this is sitting on your lap and it feels like there's like one part of you or like one part of your leg that's like really hot, and then you look down and it's this thing. So I don't know how they could fix that, but this thing does get a little bit overheated, which is kind of strange. These buttons do light up, the up and down volume. The mute doesn't, and it just kind of goes around it in a circular shape. It has a very cool LED look, and since the rest of my computer, my keyboard, mouse, and case fans are all blue, it was a nice addition to that color scheme. So moving down to the USB cable, I mean, it's pretty standard. They do give you a little zip tie here, so if you want to use less of the cable, you can. There's a 6-foot cable here, so if you need to reach around the back of your case, you should be totally fine. That's what I've been doing for the past week. So no issues there, but if you wanted to plug into the front of your case, you can kind of tie up the cable a tad bit, and with this little tie right here. Alright, so that's basically covering most of the performance. Moving on to comfort, I already did talk about the ear cups, but one thing I wanted to mention is that when you have these ears, the ear cups fully expanded, one of the things is that since these ear cups don't swivel very much, you can see they just kind of wobble back and forth a bit. And by the way, these are very rigid. You're not going to be able to break these off. I kind of did a stress test here, and they are very locked in there. But they're kind of like that, and if you had it fully extended like I do, so that I have a huge head, you kind of have to pull these ear cups way out here to fit on your head. And while you're doing that, you can see the top part's actually coming down, so you can see that. So what I have to do is actually kind of squeeze these together. So I have to pull them out to get it on my head, and I have to kind of squeeze them together to get that top part to go up a little bit so it fits over my whole head, which then causes issues of this pulling down on my head too much and giving me a a sore spot on the top of my head, which is super uncomfortable. So like I mentioned with the shallow ear cups, or at least shallow in comparison to my ears, the size of this headset in regards to the band right here and also the rotation of these ear cups is very bad for large heads. So if you have a larger head, and I mean a large head, I mean if you have a medium, small, or even a big head, these should be fine. But if you have a large head, an oversized head like I do, then you're definitely going to have issues with this headset. I didn't have any issues with the Triton AX720s. So in comparison, the A20s must be a lot, or 720s must be a little bit bigger. But I'm not going to be able to wear this headset for too much longer, and I'm actually seriously considering returning it because of the discomfort level, just because of the size of my head. But that's a rare situation. I have a large head. Most people don't have the size of a noggin that I have. So moving on to the performance of this, I'll show you guys the software and pick it up after that. Now onto the software side of things. This is a very lightweight driver software for the headset. It's only available on Windows Vista and Windows 7. Unfortunately, if you're using a Mac, Linux, or an older Windows operating system, you're just going to have to do without some of the features that this offers, like the equalizer, the 5.1, and the 7.1 surround sound. Although if you don't use the drivers, say you're using an older version of Windows or you're using a Mac or Linux-based machine, you can still use these as a normal plug-and-play USB headset / microphone. Just plug them in and set them up from there. Very easy to do. But if you are using Windows Vista or Windows 7, you can take advantage of this driver software. So in the main section we have a volume control, which does directly control Windows 7 sound. At least for me, I'm running Windows 7, as well as a microphone sound, volume level, and the microphone loopback, which actually, when you turn this up higher, you'll be able to hear your microphone in your own headset, so it allows you to hear what you're saying a little bit easier if you want to do that. There's also the left and right balance, as well as an equalizer that has profiles built into it. You can do a just flat equalizer, music and bass, FPS gaming, which is my preferred equalizer setup, and you can also make your own profiles by typing in a name, adjusting these to your liking, and pressing the add button. You can also remove them and press reset to go back to the defaults. Now onto the main section of this driver software is where you're going to be switching the different modes that this headset can be operated in. So bypass is basically your stereo mode. There's only 2 channels, left and right. That's good for if you're watching a movie or listening to music. And if you want to play a game, I would use either the 5.1 or 7.1. It kind of depends on your preference. So if you go into 5.1 surround sound, just go ahead and click yes. You can actually change the environment size. So by studio, you can see there are 5 speakers in here. So there's a left, center, right, rear left, and rear right. You can change the size of the environment. So studio is a little bit tighter sound. The speakers sound like they're closer to you. Cinema, a little bit farther off in the distance, and hall, quite a bit off in the distance. My preferred setup for playing games was in 5.1 with the cinema system, because it didn't feel like it was too far on that off in the distance, but it also didn't feel too closed and constricted. Moving on to 7.1 virtual shifter speaker. I actually preferred the 5.1. I did think it sounded a little bit better, but the 7.1 has a lot more customization. So you can actually see there's the left, center, right subwoofer as well as 4 rear speakers. Now you can actually click and drag these speakers to any location you'd like, and it does a very good job of representing where those speakers are located depending on where you position them. You can see over here that you have the decibel increase and decrease depending on how far away they are from the center here, and you can even do a rotational effect on the speakers right here, and also do a reset if you want to go back to the defaults. So once again, my preferred setup for gaming was the 5.1 surround sound in cinema.
Okay, so back to the headset. These are a stereo headset, meaning that there's only 1 speaker in each ear. So the virtual surround sound, whether 5.1 or 7.1, is simulated. It's not actual surround sound. To have actual surround sound, you have to have multiple speakers within each ear cup. And the problem with that is there are some headsets out there that are like that, like the Razer Tiamat, which are going to be released later this year, and the Psycho headset, Psycho 5.1, I believe, and the Triton AX or AX Pros have multiple speakers within each ear cup. But the problem with that is you have to make those speakers or those drivers very, very small to fit them all within 1 ear cup. So that, kind of degrades the quality of the audio. And seeing as these have 50mm drivers and just one of them, it gives a very, very good amount of bass. And basically when you have a larger driver, that means that the actual speaker is a larger size. And when you have a large amount of bass, if you have a smaller disc, those can rattle and give you that rattling sound you might hear from cars when they have their volume way too high. But with a 50mm driver, if you're just, listening to music, or even if you have the volume super high, you're not going to have any issues with rattling sounds, which is super, super annoying on lower millimeter driver headsets. So moving on to the last part of this review, which is going to be whether or not you should buy this depending on your situation. First of all, I have to say, I should have mentioned this earlier, but this is a Xbox and PS3 no-no. You can only use this on the PC because it's a USB headset. There's no 3.5mm jack or anything that will allow you to plug it into a console. Which I wish they would have had the feature to have the sound card unplug and then plug in directly to a 3.5mm jack, so I could use it something on my iPod or my iPhone. Instead, you always have to use USB, which does kind of stink. But they do have the Corsair 1300, which is the downgrade from the 1500, which is not a onboard, or I guess built-in sound card, and instead it uses the 3.5mm jack, so you could use that with your cell phone or your onboard sound card, or even a console if you have some type of mix amp. So whether or not you should buy this headset kind of depends on your situation. I would say if you have a medium to small head, you are a PC gamer, and you want to spend around $100, this is probably one of the best headsets out there. And I've tried multiple headsets. I've only owned about 3. I've owned the Astro A40s, not the A40s, the A30s. I've owned the Corsair, obviously the 1500s. I've owned the Triton AX 720s. I've owned the 720 or the AX Pros. I've owned some Turtle Beach. I don't remember what number they were, but by far these are my favorite for comfort level that were around $100 or less. Obviously, I do have a large head, but if I didn't have a large head, these were very, very comfortable. and very, very good sound quality, especially with those large drivers. Microphones sounded great, even good enough quality that I could record commentaries on, although I'm picking up a Blue Yeti for Christmas that I'll be doing all my videos in the future for. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this helps some of you guys out if you're out there curious on whether or not you should get this headset. And if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a rating, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.